What is the meaning of life? Or is it what makes life meaningful? Are we affected by what we see in our past? Or by what we can't see in our future? Is anxiety and depression the cause? Or are they just the effects? Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to Thinking Out Loud Live. I'm your host, Ricardo Zulueta. This show was made possible by Start Day One, which is a nonprofit foundation for mental health and suicide prevention, where we have a more proactive approach in helping people rather than reactively waiting for mental health issues or suicidal tendencies. So we're producing these videos basically to act proactively and hopefully reaching out to people that can help them change their perspectives and their situations, and because that's more long term. So today, we're actually going to be discussing relationships, how to fix that. So we have a couple all the way from Malaysia coming to us live. It's 8 a.m. over there, so thankful that they showed up. But let me introduce you, Jáchym and Natasha. Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Hello, doing great. How are you?
Good, good. I'm happy you guys can make it here. So I kind of mentioned a little bit about your background, but I kind of want them to hear more about you. What you're about. Just tell them about your past, kind of your story, where you are today, and then a little bit about what we're going to be talking about.
All right.
All right. So I guess Jáchym and I, we weren't really supposed to meet because I'm a Hong Kong-born Canadian and Jáchym's actually Swiss. But by chance, we actually met one another at the London Heathrow Airport. So I sat down next to this stranger, didn't think much of it. It wasn't love at first sight. But what ended up happening was that we were stuck in London for 3 days. Couldn't leave, all the flights were canceled. So that was pretty much the beginning of everything. And from there, we started a long distance relationship, which lasted 2.5 years. And that was, not easy with all the time changes and only being able to see one another for like 3 times a year. Maybe people during COVID right now actually kind of relate to the situation where they're kind of forced into long distance relationships. But we had to do that for a while. And at some point, I actually moved to Switzerland, and that's where we moved in and like finally settled together. And that was also our impression that we've made it through the worst part, because we thought that the long distance part was the hardest. And it really challenged our communication, really challenged our trust. And we thought, okay, now that we're living together, now that we've moved in, now that we've got married, we're set. Like, this is going to be the happily ever after. And this is like, the hardest part is over. But I guess this is where real life actually begins. Like, life happens and then your relationship is tested. And you begin to realize that when you live together with someone, when you're truly sharing a life with someone, there are really many differences that you actually have to deal with, and conflicts are inevitable. Your difference of opinions and lifestyle is inevitable. So how do you address that? And for me, my default mode was to not address that. How do you address that? I didn't. Like, that's how I did it. And so from my end, actually, I just, didn't really pay attention to any warning signs, any emotions that were coming up that made me feel like something wasn't right, or maybe something Jáchym said or did hurt, or I just shoved it down and I thought, no big deal. Who am I to ask him to change? Doesn't matter. It's just my problem. So I never brought my own experience and feedback back into the relationship. So I was actually mute in a way. There was no spokesperson for myself in the relationship. And And that can only go on for so long, because as I shove these emotions down, over time, I realized that there were so many unresolved issues that I was uncomfortable and unwilling to talk about, to the point where it just grew all this resentment and blame and grudges against Jáchym, and he didn't really know, why, like, what, why was our dynamic changing, and why was it becoming more toxic. So in a way, I love the conversation that you hold, Ricardo, because about mental health, a lot of the things, it's like, like thinking out loud. Clearly you have to actually express it and share it and come from an authentic place. And I think when it comes to relationships, I was personally stuck in this trap where I was suffering alone in my head, and I didn't feel worthy enough to voice those things to the one who really cared the most, and who really would have supported me, and who would have done something with me as a team. But I wasn't, either lacked the tools or the knowledge or the self-worth to bring that onto the table within our relationship. So that was pretty much the start of the unraveling.
That's awesome. So, all right. So that's well, I'm pretty sure a lot of people that are watching can relate, right? There's always this question all the time of, is love supposed to be easy, or is it supposed to be hard work? That's always, people are always asking that, like, it's a tough thing. It's because everyone's situation is so different. There shouldn't be a have to, it's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be hard. That's like every freaking company, some people get it easy. Some people get it hard. It's like, not everyone has the same exact story. But one of the things I did notice, like, what you were saying, what's funny is, you didn't take the time, right? Because you think you're in a relationship and everything's just going to go well. Like, you don't think about it. So you didn't do any kind of self-evaluation or just a relationship evaluation, right? So at what point did you start kind of, because what I like to do when I talk to people, I like to bring them to a situation where they can relate, right? So what was happening in your relationship? Because obviously honeymoon stage is awesome, right? There's never a problem. Oh, hold on, babe, hold on. Oh, take your time. We're not late. Who cares if we're late? Now it's like, we are late. Like, let's go. So things change, obviously, because you're not in that, crazy, weird mode. So at what stage or what point did you kind of start seeing, like, all right, looks like there's problems here? Because I want people to kind of see, and maybe I want them to self-evaluate and see some kind of similarities.
Right. So in our relationship, what started happening is there was a lot of blame coming up. There was bickering, nagging, criticizing. Those were all the things that started coming. As Natasha sometimes put it, she became the wife you don't want to have, which I'm not sure is right. But basically, what she's saying with it is that there was a lot of negativity that started coming into our relationship. And just like Natasha wasn't speaking up in those regards, I wasn't speaking up as well. So, I had to be the strong man, a little bit blame about something. Why should that faze me? But actually it did faze me, and it did hurt me. And the only way it started changing was when I admitted that. And I sat down with Natasha and I showed her, how much it actually hurt. When she starts to become controlling and tell me how to vacuum everything and how to wash the carrot and how to do, everything in the household, to the point where I become insecure and like, well, I don't know, maybe I should go ask her how to wash the bell pepper, because if I don't, then I'm going to get, some blame coming my way or some passive aggressiveness coming my way. And so that was really kind of some of the signs that we had in our relationship, that something was going very wrong, and it wasn't empowering, it wasn't loving, those patterns, even though under the umbrella there was still love. But there was all this nastiness coming up underneath.
Yeah. So, that always happens. Another thing that always comes up in relationships, right? They always say, like, well, if you never fight, then that's not a real relationship, right? And then it becomes that's why opposites attract. Well,
Mhm.
too much opposite might not be a good thing either, right? So I'm curious what you guys think about that. When people say, yeah, but doesn't opposite attract? And aren't you supposed to argue? Like they consider it like you're supposed to, or else you don't challenge each other. That means you're not in a right relationships, because if you're too similar, then how do you grow? So what do you say to people that say things like that?
Right. So, I mean, in my opinion, that's nonsense. I'll just be straightforward with it. And the reason is because there's a great distinction between having a conflict versus fighting. Okay. Fighting usually is a conflict gone wrong. And it usually ends up in hurt, and especially in longer relationships, there's perpetual issues that keep coming up that lead to hurtful fighting that just drive the people further apart. So what's normal is conflict. That means you have difference of opinion, you have different lifestyles, you have different ways of seeing things. That's totally normal because you're two different human beings. But does that mean that you have to fight? No, it does not. It does not mean that you have to fight.
That's right.
Just like you can go travel into a different culture and experience how they live life, you can also experience how your partner is seeing their life differently.
Yeah.
What leads to fighting is this idea that, it's about me and my way and it has to be right. And it becomes this thing, if I don't stand up for it, and if I don't show my partner that this is how it needs to be done, that I'm going to lose myself somehow in the relationship, rather than taking on some of the traveler's mindset.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And I think there's a big difference between passion and intensity versus having conversations that are so out of control that you kind of end up saying things you regret later or that are hurtful. Because you can be intensely passionate and in love and have, in intense emotions within the relationship, but that doesn't have to have that energy where you're going at one another.
Yeah.
Right? So you can be incredibly different, but like Jáchym said, it's not this tug of war where you've made it against one another, and it's either my way or your way, or compromising in the middle, which we don't really stand for, but it's this dynamic.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a point, right, where I get it. Like you can't just agree to everything your wife says. You can't just agree everything your husband says. But Jáchym was saying, it's like there's no problem with conflict, but deliberately arguing, that's an issue if you're deliberately. And one of the things I always tell people is that whenever you're trying to solve a problem, stop looking at the result. Always look at the cause. What is causing you to be this way? What is causing her to be this way? So you really have to figure it out. And I talked to this one person on our live broadcast before, and it was talking about the division in the United States right now. So everything's chaotic, especially mostly last year, because of the election and COVID and everything in between. So there was a huge divide. And so I had him on to talk about all right, how do you kind of lose that gap, right? And he said, dude, when you're talking to somebody, you don't want to win the argument. You want to win the person. So it's not about being right. Right? It's not about being right at all. It's about hey, let's find out what is right. Not that if you're right or if I'm wrong, what is right? Let's see. Because unless you have the same perspective, it's always going to be, the results are always going to change. And so I like that you guys are admitting, it's no, you don't have to fight. That's nonsense. It'll just come up naturally. Right? It doesn't just come up on purpose. I think I'm going to go ahead and tell her. So, now that now the audience kind of knows what you guys have gone through, and we know all the negative things. So at what point, because one of the things in a healthy relationship, right, is transparency. The less you hide your feelings, the more you say it right up front, hey, that kind of hurt, man. So next time, just a little easy. Thanks. Not that you have to do it aggressively, but so now that you went to that stage, what was your perspective once you were going through it, that you knew it's all right, it's time to have a talk, basically. So how did you build that up? And at what point, because I want the audience to know kind of what your mindset was, and then all of a sudden, because what I've known, everything that I've talked about with mental health, it always seems to stem from their perspective. And all of a sudden there's a perspective shift and they go, well, the worst case scenario is that she learns that I'm sad about this, right? Like, I don't think there's anything bad. So I'm curious, what was your perspective going in, and then how you decided, like, you know what, I think we have to talk to her? Was it mutual? Was it one side first? Like that?
Yeah. My perspective didn't shift until I couldn't handle it anymore. So in a way, the cracking open to become more authentic and vulnerable, it wasn't a conscious decision, because if you wanted to talk about mindset and what state I was in, I was actually deeply in fear at that point, because I've held back everything for so many years that if I thought I was to share these things, thoughts, feelings with Jáchym, I was really, really afraid that he'd leave, that he would choose to go, I didn't sign up for this. This is, not how you've been this whole time. You've pretended that everything was okay so far. So who are you now bringing all this to the table? Like, I was really ridden by fear. But somehow we tried to work it out, and we would have those conversations, like you said, and it wouldn't ever go anywhere. And it was always so frustrating, because we thought we were dealing with the conflict. We thought we were talking about the problems, but not really, because I didn't really share, like, deep down what was true to me, because that fear was in the way. So one day, actually, I literally couldn't hold it in anymore, because I no longer saw any hope in our relationship. I couldn't see a way forward. And pretty much it was so painful at that point that all our interactions were just really toxic, really hurtful.
Wow.
And despite love, how we were engaging with one another was bringing out the worst in each other. And so I didn't know why we were together anymore. And I couldn't hold it in. And so one day we were having another conversation, trying to deal with what was going on. But this time I actually shared with Jáchym how I felt. So I actually said how unhappy I was, how hurt I was, how disappointed I was, how hopeless I felt, and how, like, what are we doing? And I literally can't do this anymore. And so I said that. I didn't want to. Now, that's a funny thing. I didn't want to, and I was too scared to. And I was so scared, like, okay, now he's gonna throw in the towel and be like, well, like, what do you mean? This is all, I thought he was gonna react that way. So that was my biggest fear. But in that moment, I looked at him and I saw that he was looking at me differently. All those conversations we had to deal with this issue, it always stayed on that surface level where we get stuck, and we say the same things and we try to, talk it out, but it didn't work. But this time, I felt like he saw me. I felt like he actually cared, he understood, and that he wanted to help. So where before it was us two going against this problem, now it's like he's with me, we're a team. And I think Jáchym can share, your perspective change, but for me, that recognition in another human being that they're there for you and they still care and they understand what you just shared, that gave me hope. Literally, that was like, nothing has changed within our relationship. I mean, all I did was voice what I was going through, but I knew that we were a team again. And because of that, there was the possibility of a way forward. And the perspective shift for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's hard to say. It's just, I just saw this complete rawness and vulnerability from Natasha, and compassion and empathy just came in. I can't even say what exactly happened. It's just, it was clear to me that I love her and I want to help her, and I want to make sure that we're going to turn this relationship around. It was in that moment that I saw this, so I'm not sure what exactly changed, but it was how she shared it. It was not necessarily what she shared, but how she shared it, and how she was so completely unprotected, but just totally open and honest.
Right. Wow. So that's awesome, because like I mentioned before, the transparency, between a relationship is really big. If you don't have that, it's very difficult, because trust is built on that. I've learned that the trust is built on transparency, credibility, and accountability. And when you don't have those, it's very tough to trust the other person if you can't count on them. If there's no transparency and they're hiding things, it's very difficult. I was actually going to ask you some things, but someone did kind of ask a question, and I was going to wait till the very end to do this, but it's kind of a big question. So let's see what you guys say. So he says, what do you feel, the best way to turn things around that are currently going on through a divorce? How do you know when to salvage or cut the cord? I mean, that's kind of a big question there, but let's bring it on. Let's see what you guys got going on for that.
Yeah, I mean that it's a hard thing to say, because it's going to depend on case by case. But there's one sign that we do take as a fairly clear sign, which is when we talk to people and a couple, and we talk to them about the past and how they met, and why they start to be together, and their memory has started to become so skewed that everything in the past has been negative as well. That it's like almost like the kind of the toxicness has infiltrated the past, because memories aren't clear cut. It's not like you have a little box in your mind that you can see the accurate memory every time. Actually, every time you access it, it changes. And so when it has been changed to the degree where everything has been negative. Oh, when you got married, that has been negative because someone didn't come to the wedding, or the way that she said the wedding vows wasn't right. It's become really so skewed. At that point, there's very little hope. So that would be like the one thing where I'm like, it's quite clear. Sorry, you want to say something?
And what do they feel is the best way to turn things around? Well, I think when it comes to deciding to get a divorce, we were at that point. So the situation I just described, I was literally like, what's the reason of us being together, right? And it's really interesting because I was talking to my mom the other day, and she knows what we do, right? And she didn't until the end of my dad's life. They did not have a happy marriage, So and for herself too, there wasn't much to model from. And she was saying to me oh, if someone's at the point where they're pursuing divorce, and they're thinking about it, or even talking about divorce, even if you manage to help them, or even if you keep them together, they won't be happy. They'll still break apart at some point. And I said, well, okay, that's your opinion, Mom. but that's a very typical perspective, because that's given that both parties stay the same. If you stay the same, you have the same mindset, you're doing the same things, of course, 5 years from now, or 3 years from now, or 2 weeks from now, you're still gonna want to make that decision to split. Why wouldn't you? Time doesn't heal. It's the changes that you make. And so for us, we oftentimes work with even just one individual, because some people literally have a partner who has given up, or they don't agree with that there are problems that need improvement in their relationship. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you can't make changes yourself, just from one party, one half of it. It depends, of course, on what is tearing you apart. For us, it was unresolved issues that we never address. It's the dishonesty within each of us. Communicating, yes, we were communicating, Was there transparency? In some way, we were trying to say what we thought was true, but there was not honesty within ourselves. And that, letting that drag on for years, that was our true issue. So, and the grudges that the blame that happened in that case. So for each situation, it's like, what is that root? Because there can still be love. Like, so unfortunate, right? Like for us too, in our situation, there's still love, but that doesn't quite save you from that split or that divorce or that thinking of giving up. So what is the root that is making that distance bigger, that's tearing you apart, that makes you go against each other versus versus being a team together? And there's no way to kind of help the relationship or help the marriage repair itself unless you actually go to those issues. And
That's
so it really depends on what that is for you, that problem spot for you. But it's very specific for each situation.
Exactly. So Ryan, just my point of view on that one is, like they said, it's always different. That's why questions are so valuable when you're trying to help people, because the answers never come from the outside. It's usually from within. Therapists don't say anything to you that they do for you. No one does anything for you. You always do it for you, whether it's any type of mental health issues, right? So I would just want to start with that. One of the things that Natasha keeps mentioning, right, is this blame thing. And I know when we're in a negative perspective and in a bad mindset, we tend to do that a lot more. It's like, it's never your fault, dude. It's never your fault. It's never your fault, and because you're just in a bad mindset. But one of the ways to do that is the communication, right? The more questions, the more answers you can get. So what you're going through, like something I learned with my startup, is that everything we do or know is an assumption until you get feedback or data. Right now, everything that you think about your relationship are all assumptions. Do you really know that's the cause? Do you really know that's what's making her feel this way? Do you really know that's why she's pissed off at you? Until you know all that and you got the data, it's just an assumption. That's all that is. And so you got to really go on that. One of the things that they're saying is like, they're listening. And I love that Jáchym was saying, and it's so true, that your past, your memories can get distorted. That's why it's a big thing in mental health is reframing, reframing everything that's happened in your past, things like that. Because what's funny is, when Natasha was kind of talking to us about the fear of talking to Jáchym, right? You're like, I don't know. Fear comes from it's for the future, your mindset for the future. What's going to happen? I guess I'm going to be alone, but I'm glad that you still kind of went for it, because what you really wanted was a better future, right? And that's why you went for it. So all our emotions, whether it's happiness or depression, it's always based on the future. It's never the past. The past doesn't equal the future. The present is just where you execute things. And so that was really big. And the biggest thing that I've learned, like when it comes to relationships, is that it's not so much, all the little things that you guys do together. Like, you guys just have to have the same purpose. Because if you don't have the same purpose, one wants to be a rock star and one wants to be a stay-at-home mom, we're going to have an issue. If you guys have two different purpose, two different mission. You can't have a company with two different mission statements. A CEO is doing this and another one's doing this. It's like, it's never going to work. Your mission is not the same. So it's going to fall apart. So what purpose does is it doesn't care whether it's painful or pleasurable. Purpose doesn't care. Purpose is just something that you do because it benefits others. It's not because it benefits you. And it's always a verb. I always emphasize this. It's never a verb. It's to something. It's to teach. It's to educate. It's to, like, when you don't have the same purpose to do the same thing for people, like right now, they're like fucking in sync. Like, these two are meant to help people's relationships. Like, they have the same purpose. One can do something else. One can do something else, but their purpose is the same and they're on the same boat throughout the thing. Is it going to be pleasurable? Is it going to be hard? Hell yeah. Every business is hard, right? But when their purpose is the same, they go through it a lot easier. It gives you more perseverance. That's why investors love mission-driven companies. Because if there's no mission, they kind of know, like, you guys are gonna die. Like, you guys aren't gonna make it. Because if you want to be the best tool, that's a noun. And there's going to be another tool that's going to come out, and it's like, well, you're dead. But if your tool was meant to help people do something else, and you keep helping people, well, that tool's going to change because of what you're trying to help them with. And so that's really interesting what you guys doing. But I love that you said that, you know, the past can get distorted by your thoughts really of the future. So now we're on the stage. Go ahead.
Let me just jump in real quick about purpose. I think it's really important what you said, and there's a little nuance there that I see, which is you need a shared relationship vision, which is basically what we created once we went through all the difficulty. We start seeking help. It's like, okay, what is this relationship about? Why are we together? What is it that we want to nurture together in the relationship? That is vital and important, so you're in the same boat. I don't see it as much as life purpose. Like, if you have a shared relationship vision, both are on board, you still can have, you know, difference in someone wants to be more stay at home, someone wants to have more of a career. That's totally cool. As long as those other purposes that you have in life are not going to shadow over that shared relationship vision. It's actually good to have sometimes different purpose because it creates a certain dynamic in the relationship. So I just want to pull out that little nuance.
No, that totally makes sense, because you know, when I talk to business and stuff, it doesn't mean there's only one purpose. There's a purpose to be a mom, the purpose of a dad, the purpose of a husband, purpose of a wife, purpose of a business person. So yeah, there's definitely different purposes, but I guess the overall purpose, you know, the macro level makes sense, because if you're not in sync with that, and one totally has a completely different, you know, what a relationship is about, like one wants to be monogamous and one wants that's not going to work, man. You know, that is completely different, you know, so that's going to be very difficult. So now we're at that point. All right, let's start solving problems here. Like now we're finding the cause. So people that are listening, and you know, you got to listen, you got to communicate, you have to do all these things. So now you're at the point. So you guys talked, right? So now you got it all out. Now he knows he made you feel bad. And now he's like, oh man, look at this cute little thing now. Like, what do I do? She's like, the sympathy came out. Basically, you're saying like, oh my gosh, she can be nice. She doesn't yell at me all the time after all, right? So, okay, so now that you talked that, what was the mindset there? Like, what was okay, because from what I've learned, right after, you know, the purpose obviously becomes part of the game, but the perspectives just shifts, and now it's the decision part, because until you make that decision, nothing fucking happens. Nothing, almost all the time. And people, so many people are just insane. They always kind of complain about things they do nothing about, but they expect something different to happen. So, you know, my girlfriend sucks. Same girlfriend? Have you talked to her? No, I don't get it. So I don't get it. Like, you're gonna keep getting the same result all the time. So now we're at the decision stage. I'm curious to get both your sides here. What was in your mind after your discussion? What went through your head as far as perspective goes? And then what decision did you make?
Right. So, I mean, for me, as I saw Natasha, and, you know, she was struggling, for me, it was clear it has to change. So that it was a point of no return. That, you know, there was no way we're going to keep doing the things that we were doing so far. It was very clear, okay, let's see what needs to be done. How are we showing up in this relationship that is contributing to it being derailed like it has been derailed? That was in my mind, and, you know, very practical action steps to take from that place, then, you know, actually listening and starting to do some of the changes.
For me, the decision had to be made the realization that we have gone as far as we could as two individuals to save our marriage. That was it. The fact that, okay, he recognizes me, he's on board again somehow, you know, there's compassion, that love still ties us together. There's a bit of hope. That's good. But I knew deep down that this was as far as we could take it. we needed help. It was in our relationship has broken down to the point, broken down in all the good aspects. And so now there were just very strong negative toxic structures. So that was in place. That didn't crumble. That was strong. It was like a big Eiffel Tower. So it's like, okay, with that, where do we go from there? And I knew that we couldn't. We couldn't break it down ourselves. There's this huge, massive Eiffel Tower of just hurt and destructive behaviors, and there was no way Jáchym and I could just unscrew it all. No way at all. So I knew that a decision had to be made, that we need to work with someone. We need to reach out to someone, because we were at our wits' ends. There was no way we could have done that ourselves at all.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, wow. Interesting. So was it mutual right away, or was it something one side did this and then one side did that? Was it instant? It was mutual?
It was mutual. I mean, it came over time. It was not in that moment immediately everything became clear. It was a process of seeing and also trying, doing some of the adjustments ourselves, and then realizing there's just stuff that's just too difficult. And so we both decided that we need to see someone.
Yeah. No, that's good. Like, that's interesting because, like I said, but either way, you guys made the decision together to commit, basically, because a lot of times people don't understand that there's this, if you make a decision based on like 99.9%, that's actually not a decision, because you're still going like, it's just an optional, right? And with marriage, I've seen so many marriages that get destroyed because they never actually fully committed. They thought there was still an option to hook up with other girls. They thought there was an option, well, if it doesn't work out, I guess I'll just get a divorce anyway. So, but when you have that mindset that you're not committed to someone, and it's just like any decision. When you're not committed to a startup and you're trying to build a business, dude, don't do it. Like, you're not going to make it. Like, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And what's funny is your mindset actually changes for the positive when you actually 100% commit versus 99.9%, because that little bit is going to mess you up. Doesn't matter what decision it is. It's kind of like when people like, maybe something about like something you want to keep in your house, right? But that's so monumental. Like, that's from the past, and but it's in the attic. You never even see it, but you never let go of it. But once someone throws it out, all of a sudden you're just like, gone. Because it was 100% committed. It's like, it's gone. And it's just like, all right, I guess I didn't really need it. All right, like, I didn't need it. It's cool. It was in the attic the whole time. So that is really important for people. So that, making a decision when you're getting into a relationship, dude, you got to go all in 100%. And what I like that you guys did is like, no, we're still 100%. I just feel like we don't know the tools anymore. We don't know what else we don't, like, you're just kind of like, I don't know how to communicate this or how to fix this. So it requires kind of some expertise. And just funny enough, you guys are now the experts. So when did I just kind of want to get a timeline when all these things happened? Like, when you guys get together, when did things go to,
We've known each other for a bit more than a decade now.
Okay.
And I guess 7 years ago we were married. So it's been a progression. It's been a long breakdown. But the healing part actually took a lot faster than we thought. We thought we needed to repeat the years in which we suffered. But no, actually it was quicker than the painful moments, really. And I do want to kind of tag along with what you've been sharing about making that commitment, and how, hey, it's important that you say, hey, this is for me. I'm gonna say yes to that and no to this. And Jáchym often shares a one-liner about our work and pretty much the foundation of how to have healthy, thriving relationships. It's either you choose love or you choose fear. And a lot of the behaviors we did it came from fear. And sometimes, it felt like, yeah, the intentions are good. I'm just trying to help more in the household. I'm trying to, I don't know, benefit his life this way or that. But really, it was from a place of fear because there's this controlling tendency. There's this power struggle in place. So what am I really trying to achieve? Me picking on him and making the household better, that was what I thought the intention was. But deep down, it was, trying to get some power back because I felt disempowered. And I
Yeah.
think when you talk about making sure that you commit to the right things and what's true for you, what we get really lost in is the fact that we all don't have too many role models for healthy relationships. And we grow up in a world where there usually is some sort of nagging, bickering, passive aggression, manipulation, power struggle within all these intimate relationships. And we think that it's okay because it's become normal. But every single person who is in an intimate relationship can make that decision and ask themselves, is that something that I want to commit to? Like, it's a decision you can actually make yourself. And you don't have to wait until things break down to be forced to be in that position. It's something you can choose now. What is healthy for you? What brings out the best in each other now? And does it match the worldview that media has, movies have, and, about that love-hate relationship? Do you necessarily, like you said, do you need to fight? Do you need to hate one another to love one another? Those things, once you kind of inquire into it, you can then make a decision. But until you do that for your own situation, like you said, you haven't took a stance, you haven't made a decision, and you haven't committed.
Yeah. And it's what's funny, like you brought it up a couple of times, like before you guys talked, one of the things you said was like, you had a fear of talking and you just couldn't see something moving forward with the thing. And the key word there is the forward, because all of our emotions, again, I got to emphasize, it's based on our future mindset, what we see in the future. See, we don't get sad or depressed based on what happened in the past. It's what you can't see in your future. That's actually what happens. And so when you can't see yourself with the person anymore, that's when it becomes bad. So the way to connect, in my mind, is like, if you can see a future together, because when people tell me like they're lost, so basically when it comes to a relationship, we're lost, we don't know what to do. First question I always ask when people say that, where are you going? Where the hell are you going? Like, that's like you driving in a car and you put your car in park and you just said, I'm lost. Okay. You're not going to look at your GPS. You're not going to ask for directions, nothing. You're just going to stay there. And that's what people are doing when they say that, I'm lost. Yeah, but if you don't know where you're going, well, that doesn't even make sense. And that's why purpose is so important, because why are you going? So what do you see in your relationship together, in your future? What do you see? If you don't have the same future together in your mind, it's not going to work, because all your decisions will follow. So people think, the decisions you guys made, you have to have the solutions first and then decide what to do. No. You decide and the solutions come afterwards. Always. Not sometimes, fucking always. It never just comes, because if you never wanted it in the first place, you're never going to look to it. People call this the law of attraction, but really it's just the power of the decision. Once you make that decision, things open up that you've never seen before, right? All of a sudden it's like, oh, she is vulnerable. Shit. And then the question is, do you decide to stay together? Well, what do you see? Because unless you have somewhere you're going together and you have the same purpose, it's like being in a freaking car. What happens? Okay, maybe we took a wrong turn a while ago and we bickered in a car, like, no, it's this way, no, it's that way. Like, okay, now you're lost. Now you're freaking lost. Well, get back on track. Where are you going and why are you going there? And once you know that, things kind of start, coming together. And it's always future-based. So, you talk about fear and then love, right? It's like, dude, if you don't love the future, I'm telling you right now, you're not going to love the person. If you cannot see a future with this person, That's why that's why you marry each other, because I see myself, but no one but this person. Like, I can't see anyone else, you know? So once you get that in your mind, all of a sudden you take the same steps, because when people keep looking at every step, right? You're never going to reach your destination. It's impossible. Like, I'll challenge anybody to reach point A to point B, but don't look up. Just look at your steps. You're never going to hit it. Guaranteed. I guess there's a chance, but it's very, very difficult if you're looking at every little step that you're taking. So you really have to be intentional of like what you do. Purpose and all these things are all intentional. Passion doesn't come before and then you get married. Passion comes after the decisions you make together. The experience. It's just like confidence. You don't have confidence and then you do something. You don't get confidence and all of a sudden you talk in front of 100,000 people. It's because you talk to so many people throughout the time. By the time you get 100,000, this is nothing. But I'm pretty sure if it's the first time, you're gonna probably break down a little bit. So anyway, what are your now you guys, what are you guys feeling now? Like, where are you guys at in your life? Like, how are you guys feeling, and how does it freaking feel helping other people? Talk to me about your exceptional relationship here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's great. It's fantastic. Like, I absolutely love it. It has changed so much. Before, all the small things have dragged us down, and they are all gone. And instead, what happens is we're being uplifted by each other. And so there's so much energy, there's so much synergy together. And it just feels so empowering, because we are going the same direction. We are supporting each other. We are loving each other. And we can pass on what we have learned to other people, which is, how much better can it get? Really, that's the question I have. How much better can it get? And people, I didn't realize how much those patterns impacted us until they were gone. Like, I didn't realize how much it zapped my energy, and how big the sacrifice was. And once it was gone, it's like, oh my God, like, why would I ever get tied up in those small little conflicts? It's just ridiculous. Like, that energy, you can create the life of your dreams together.
Yeah,
that's how powerful it is. And you either going to look at that fighting about the spoon or something like that, or you just forget about that and just move on and go and create what you want to create in your life and have in your life. For me, fighting about the spoon or whatever small issue one of us might have, it's just so insignificant compared to what that energy can do when you put it to its proper use.
Yeah.
For me, I guess this reflective question comes from quite different. I'm going to answer very differently than Jáchym. For me, it's one of the worst things to be stuck in a cycle where you can't stop hurting another human being. Just period. When you have those unconscious patterns and you have those feelings within you, you can't hold the irritation back. You can't hold the anger back. You can't hold that blame back, and blah, before you know it, you just said things. You don't really mean it because you really love this person. But before you know it, you've done it again. It's the worst to be stuck in a cycle when you can't stop hurting one another.
Yeah.
It sucks so much because it's not what we're meant to do on this planet. We're not here to hurt one another. We're really here to love each other. That's why it hurts when we hurt each other. It really does.
Yeah.
And so to be able to stop that, and it's not from a place of, okay, hold it in now, like, don't tell him what to do. It's really because I found a certain peace within myself. We've resolved issues. There's a peace here. There's a harmony here. That is freedom. That is freedom. And I don't have to walk around trying to watch what I say, trying to apply certain things so that I'm being healthy. Like, we are healthy foundation speaking, and that is an amazing place to be, because that is love. That is love. And that's not fear. And so to move from that place to where, okay, peace, harmony, that love, this is our normal. Our home is now safe. our
Yeah.
interactions with one another. Hey, sometimes we mess up. Maybe there's still blame. There's still mistakes, but we know we can grow. We hold each other to
Yeah.
keep improving. And that is, I think, what every human being wants within the home, that safety, that harmony, that peacefulness. And so I've
Yeah.
read that, and I can't tell you how liberating it is to not be stuck there anymore and to not recognize yourself because you've become this human being that's just like impulsive and
Yeah.
being nasty. Like you don't
Yeah.
recognize that part of yourself either because that isn't really you either. So that's one. And another part that I've gained so much from the healing of our relationship is that I allow him to love me more than before. Like in the past, we talked about how I held back how I felt. I didn't share a lot of things. I didn't communicate a lot of things. Well, let's just say that's one piece of the holding back that I was doing. I was
Yeah.
holding back also in my love and how much I receive, how much I let him in, because
Yeah.
there's that fear. How can you love fully if there's fear, if you're ruled by
Yeah.
fear? And
Yeah.
so that vulnerability has allowed me to be like, okay, I can let this man support me. I can let this man love me. I can be seen and heard by him. And so I'm coming from a place of I'm worthy. I'm worthy of such a beautiful relationship. I'm not dreaming too big. This is what we're meant to do on this planet.
Yeah.
And so those two things, if you talk about mental health and perspective changes, massive, massive, because I've
Yeah.
seen so much and I know this is the right thing, and I'll forever until the day we die like commit to this because I
Yeah.
know this is good for me. This is really good for me, and I would never want to love or to be loved in any other way.
Right. Right. That's good. I love you guys.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I love everything you're talking. And what's funny is like I was just gonna say something about that. Like I was gonna actually go into the love part of things, right? And the hard part, especially for the guys, it's like it's like love is corny, but it's so crazy. But it really is what fixes things. It's messed up. As corny as it really is love, dude. It really is. It's like I know it's in the movies and stuff, but it is. And what's funny is like I was one of the things that you see on our, everything's like teal, right? And what we've told people, so people that are watching, we're talking about relationships, just like mental health, right? Everyone's is so trying to look for symptoms. They're trying to look at the results already. Like basically, I'm gonna call, Jáchym and Natasha when we're about to have a divorce. It's like, no, man. Like, proactive is what you need to do for prevention, right? You have to be proactive to prevent anything. It could be diabetes. How the hell do you prevent diabetes if you eat anything you want? You can't. You have to do something proactive. You can't prevent obesity unless you watch your diet. It's impossible to do nothing proactive and be healthy. It's impossible. So when you're talking about suicidal tendencies, divorce, it's impossible if you do nothing proactive. Because not only is proactivity great for prevention, it's freaking awesome for prediction. Because I can already know that if you guys yell at each other, bicker about the small things and this and that, I'm going to guarantee you there's going to be a divorce happening. Not a maybe. No, go ahead, yell at each other. Make sure the other person feels like crap every single day. I'll guarantee you that. But so not only proactive is good for prevention, it's good for that. So what we tell people is like, you have to be proactive. So what are the things that you can give, right, to help prevent mental health issues? And this goes in a relationship also. Don't wait for your wife to be angry every day and not coming out of the room and be like, oh, I think she's got depression. Like, you think? What you think? Really? Like, you don't know? That's weird. Like, you're married to the person. But you have to do this proactively. You have to give your time, your effort, your attention, and then your love. I mean, obviously, when you're married, you better do all of the above. Like you don't wait for love later on, but those are the things that you can provide proactively. Don't wait until she's miserable, because I'm telling you now, I'll guarantee you have a happier life just by putting in the time, the effort, and attention, and the love. Because if you don't do that proactively, it's like, well, what did you expect, dude? Like, what were you expecting? You weren't doing anything to have a successful marriage, but you wanted a successful marriage. That's weird, dude. That's like trying not to be fat, but then you eat McDonald's every day. It's like, I don't get it. I don't get your. And so that's what I've been seeing with people. Like, there's more insane people than you think. They always complain about the things they do nothing about and expect a different result every time. And so the things that you guys are talking about is just so valuable. Like, I hope people are listening in. Is like, from your experience, from your learning experience, that's why I always like bringing people on your path. And then when you change and when you finally go like, dude, it's the best. I mean, the way you guys are talking now, it's like, dude, we're going to rule the world. Like, like that's it. Party's over. Power couple, So that's really great to hear. But so what are your kind of last, I guess, I want you guys to go all out. People that are listening, maybe they're having issues. What are your best advice for them that's going to really help them cultivate a great intimate relationship?
Right. Okay. So I'm going to give one advice that's really, really vital. Okay. Without it, you're not going to go anywhere. You are the creator of your life. And if you're unconscious of that, you're going to create a life that's going to go downhill. Okay. So you need to look at where you're putting your time and attention. Are you putting your time and attention into all the conflict, all the negativity, all the things that are going wrong? Or are you putting your attention towards what you want to create? You have creative power, and waking up to that is really vital. Without it, you go down to destructive patterns. So that in itself, just that one thing, if you truly can embrace, I am a creator. I am a creator. Like, you make decisions in your life all the time. If you can realize that those decisions have an impact on your life, if you can see that you actually have the power to change things, even if they've gone downhill and you are close to divorce, like, there is still a chance that you can turn things around if you embrace that you can create. If you embrace that you can create, because that puts you back in power. The one antidote the one thing that's against that is the victim. Well, I can't do anything. I'm hopeless. It just happened. And now what? I just have to give up. That is you're using your creative power to create a victim mentality where life has screwed you over, basically.
Yeah.
That's how you're using your creative power in that moment. But you're still a creator. So you can't escape that. You can't escape that. And the more you wake up from it and realize, oh, wow, I can actually create, the more you can take charge and be like, oh, wait, that's actually me disempowering myself. I'm creating a disempowerment game in my life. I'm creating a game in my life where I always come out at the same end feeling not good enough. Okay, so if I'm the creator of all that, how about I change it? How about I start doing things that are good for me, that I like? So that is the one thing I can say that will help a lot of people if you really embrace it.
Awesome.
And that probably, practically speaking, means that you stop waiting for your partner to change, because that happens. That happens for years and years, waiting for your partner to change first.
That's right. Love it. No, that all makes sense. And what's funny too, something I forgot to bring up earlier, when people talk about purpose, and they always think, find your purpose. You got to find your purpose. But dude, just like Jáchym is saying, you don't ever find your purpose. You fucking create it. You create your purpose. You can never find it. You have to actually sit down and go, okay, how do I want to help people? Can other people benefit from me? What can I give? Because that's what love is, right? It's not about taking and taking. What can I take? What can I take? What can I expect from this person? It's like, dude, I had this one, this one person that have called me up. Things are going on with his relationship, and he's getting a divorce and all this, and being treated really badly. And I'm going like, so why do you want to stay with her? I love her, man. I'm like, so just to let you know, love doesn't mean she has to be with you. Love means you want her to be happy with or without you. That's like true love, dude. So you seem like you're not like, what do you see in your future with this girl? Like the way this is going to work, if you really, really love her, then tell her to, okay, whatever I can do to make this easier for you, or whatever I have to do. But that's what love is. But it's not because they have to be with you. Like that's not love. That's control. That's not it. But thank you guys so much for a very informative, you know, conversation about relationships. So this was the first time for us to talk about relationships. So it was really interesting to get your story. Both of you guys are just big pain in the asses to each other, huh?
Oh yeah.
Well, now it's that whole thing is fixed now, so everything's all right. So thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your morning. You guys can go have your coffee now. And I hope everyone that watched learned a lot of things about relationships. Again, this is their. Oh, if you guys want to talk a little bit more about your exceptional relationship, so you can go to yourexceptionalrelationship.com. Just tell people what you guys do for people and what they're going to learn.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's a free quiz we want to share with you because, Ricardo, today you really mentioned something vital. We make so many assumptions. We think we know what the problem is in the relationship. We keep trying the same things, yet they don't work. Probably because we don't actually have feedback on what we need to do next, what is actually going wrong. So we have a free quiz. Because we know when relationships don't quite kind of go off course, it shows in the communication, how you speak to one another, how the other person receives it, how you react, all of that. So if you kind of want to troubleshoot and get some valid feedback as to how your communication is it toxic? Could it be improved? Where are you at? You can get that at yourexceptionalrelationship.com/understand. So just put a /understand to it, and then you can take that quiz. Super easy. And then also, we have a podcast of our own called Awakened Wife. So you can head to our website and check that out. Or easier, just go to awakenedwife.com. So there's that awesome quiz, and then there's more to listen to.
Awesome. And here it is, guys. So here's the podcast here. So you got a lot of things you can listen to. So if you guys are trying to, fix your relationships, definitely go check them out and learn and take that test. What's the, what is it?
Understand, /understand. Yes.
Understand. Let's see what that looks like.
Yeah. It's fun.
Okay. Awesome.
Just put your email
awesome.
in.
So you just go in there, just put in your email and you get the quiz right away. So everyone go check that out. Yeah. All right. Awesome. So thank you guys again. I appreciate your time, and hopefully everyone just learned something new today and we get happier and better couples out there. So awesome. Thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate it. Until next time.
Thank you for having us.